Some leaders chase the future, others build it, and ask, who gets to belong there? Welcome back, listeners, to today's episode on the BizBlend podcast with your host, Sana. And today's guest, Stephanie Sylvestre, has done both. From barrier-breaking corporate roles to founding an AI company preserving Black history through digital twins. Her thesis is disarming human, and in the age of algorithms, the mind is still our sharpest tool. Resilience, creativity, and critical thinking included. So, as a founder or as a leader or as a thinker, you have felt both excited and also uneasy about AI speed. You are in a good company, listeners. So let's all slow down, breathe, and talk about designing a future that remembers who it is for. So, Stephanie, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really honored to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We are actually talking leadership in the age of, all these models and AI and technological advancements, rapid technological advancements. But when, Stephanie, when the tech shifts weekly, now we are seeing almost every day something new or the other is coming up. What does steady leadership actually look like in practice?
Steady leadership looks like you being vulnerable, you being there for your team, you're ensuring that your team is succeeding. Steady leadership means creating a space where your team can fail and you take the follow-up for it, and then celebrating your team when they win. It's ultimately creating a space where your team members feel like they're the best versions of themselves. So they believe that you are there for them.
I think it's safe to say that it definitely brings in the human side of the entrepreneurs and the leaders, not just the numbers and the tech and stuff.
Absolutely. Um, you know, let me say something. People like to think that to be a great leader, you have to lead hundreds of people. That's not leadership. Okay. Leadership is being able to take a small group of people, some of whom might not even believe that something is possible, and working with them in a way and supporting them and creating an environment so that they can rise to heights that they never imagined. Because once you help somebody raise to heights they can never imagine, they will then take off and become successful beyond your wildest imagination or their wildest imagination. And so a really good leader, is about looking and seeing what is it that we're trying to accomplish? What is the goal? Co-dreaming with their team, moving out of their team's way, and then walking a little bit ahead of their team, not because they're a leader, but because they're moving barriers and blockers out of their team's pathway. So when their team gets to that point where a blocker is, it's smooth sailing. That is what true leadership is about. It's not about having the best idea. It's not about personal wins. It's about really, truly elevating people to the next level.
Absolutely, Stephanie. I 100% agree with that. And I think that's exactly where the legacy that you leave behind as a leader, as a visionary, even if it's a very small group of people or a very, just a normal idea. But the way of executing it and mentoring, motivating, um, bringing along the people with yourself on that journey, and also making leaders out of them as well. I think that's where the true legacy stays, and it stays timeless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Regardless of the industry, regardless of the space, regardless of the size of the project, it maintains.
It does. It does. And I think this is industry agnostic, as you said. This is industry agnostic. And a very interesting part of your work is, Stephanie, that you are using AI to preserve Black history through digital twins, which is absolutely exciting. It's interesting. I would love to know, our listeners as well, like what guardrails do you put in place so that these systems, they don't um, flatten nuance or repeat bias.
Yeah. So okay, so let's just break this down a little bit before I get to your question. Because I don't want to presuppose that everybody understands what I'm talking about. So first, LLMs were created and continue to be created by scraping the web. Anything that wasn't behind a paywall, and some are arguing even things behind a paywall, were used to build the LLM. That's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because you have various wide ranging ideas and the world at its rawest. It's a bad thing because the world has biases and mistakes and all the messiness that comes with being a human and dealing with the outputs from human. So I say I'm on the camp of the large language model should be a reflection of our world. It's not a pretty world. It's a messy world. It has biases. It has misinformation. It has ideas that are not good. And so just like how you would, when you have a child, teach your child right and wrong based on your values and principles. Doesn't mean that those are the correct values and principles. Those are your values and principles. So one person might say bias, this is bias. Another person might say, no, it's not. Because bias is a very, very subjective thing. And so at Avatar Buddy, what we've done is we've created a small language model solution that sits on top of the large language model. And that solution allows for you, as just like how as a parent you would decide what the value system you want your child to be raised in. You decide the value system of the data. You decide which data goes into it. You decide if it's biased or not. You decide if it's accurate. You decide everything. And what that does is we're now going back to the point in the internet where we had portals. First, the internet was a free-for-all, and people quickly realized that if you just put your data out there, it could create a lot of problems. So we started building portals. We started building portals in 2002, walling off our data. And so I am predicting that that small language model is going to be the next wave. The good thing about that is that small language model puts the control in the hands of the organizations, puts the control in the hands of the person, just like how a parent controls the value system of their children, but that value system has to coexist within the larger society where they live. So when you think about it from that perspective, you have small language model on top of large language model, and those two things coming together, and with the instruction that the small language model should win, just like the parents' value system should win over the greater society if there's a diversion of it. And so that's how we're handling biases when we're building out digital twins. And when we think about digital twins to preserve Black legacy, what we're seeing is that the person lived experience, their accomplishments, their writings, their thoughts, that's what's going into the digital twin. So that is a true reflection of the person's experience. So by that token, one could argue that it's not biased. Or if it's biased towards the person and the reflection of that person's worldview back onto the world.
That is quite interesting, Stephanie. Quite interesting. And this also brings one quick question in my mind. So let's say if a small museum or a community org is listening, what is step one they can take right now, maybe this month, without a big budget? Because right now we are mostly on the LLMs, and it is mostly scraping the web world, as you mentioned. So what was the step one they can take?
I believe that if you bought ChatGPT, the paid version, ChatGPT Plus, or ChatGPT Enterprise, which is still fairly cost effective, and you were to take the time to build out your own agents that your team can use, then you would already be ahead of the game in terms of addressing biases and misinformation. Now, one of the things that I will say with that is that building out an AI agent is a very complex thing, even though people seem to think that it's very simple. And we have so much companies talking about, oh, give me your credit card and I'll give you a platform and you can build out an AI agent. But it's not really an AI. It's not really a true reflection, because if you don't understand technology and you don't understand social science, it's really hard for you to craft the system prompt needed for the AI to behave in a particular way.
I think this really calls for a responsible creation, not just
Absolutely, yeah.
And definitely, I think this is craft before scale, like curation, consent, and context as well. And I think that it also reframes innovation as, stewardship, not just as a throughput.
Yeah. Exactly.
And another fact that I really appreciate about you, Stephanie, that you have actually given underrepresented youth access to digital mentors, which I think right now is need of the hour. What skills actually move the needle? Like, beyond all the buzzwords and the keywords and the hashtags and stuff.
It's a good question.
Like, let's say we see on different LinkedIn profiles and resumes that the standard, description, and I can do this, I can do that. But somewhere down the line, and because all of these resumes or profiles, they're kind of, scanned digitally. So somewhere down the line, the real value sometimes goes unseen, or it kind of, doesn't even get recognized. One of the reason could be that, someone who is not getting that exposure on how to present themselves, what exactly works out in the job market. They may not have access to um, that particular, resource or information. So how do you help young people, especially who are underrepresented, get access to these digital mentors or those resources available out there?
Um, so AI is going to fundamentally change who we are and how we interact. And so, um, I've spent my career shying away from certifications. To be honest, if I get a resume and they have a whole lot of certifications on there, but not a lot of experience, they can't articulate how they're implementing those certificates, I don't usually advance that person. Because just having certificates for the sake of certificates to build your resume um, is not a good way forward. You have to actually have experience doing the building and using the tools. So the good thing about AI is you get a certificate. If you want to get a certification, I'm not saying not to get a certification, but a certification in of itself is nothing. What's important is certification plus actual practical implementation. And so the practical implementation is I learned how to build AI agents. I have a certification that says I can build AI agents. That just means that you took a course, passed an exam, if there is an exam. But if you haven't built an AI agent or multiple, because just building one is not sufficient, building multiple AI agents that work in the real world. And you might say, how do I get experience doing that if I can't get a job? And I would say build it to address your pipelines in your personal life. Build an AI agent to help you figure out the fastest way to get from point A to point B. Build an AI agent that helps you write better, or build an AI agent that helps you do research. I mean, those are things that you do in your everyday life that you also that's very transferable to the workplace. And if you built enough AI agent, you can talk about the concepts and how to build an AI agent, because each person will have a slightly different need, and you have to sit there and think about that and build it. And so if you know what you're talking about, um, you're able to actually build out the solution and get hired. And I think that what I'm seeing is people are doing these things that hiring is now becoming a numbers game. It's never should have been a numbers game. You're not going to get hired that way. You can send out 1,000 resumes and you probably not get anybody call you back. Because if you're sending out 1,000 resumes, that means that not one of those resumes is intentional. Not one of them is targeted to that job that you're applying for. If you are applying for a job, go to LinkedIn, look and see who works at that company, connect with them, and start a relationship with them, and then ask them if they can give you insight into working at the company, and then from there you can you can then ask them for help with your resume. Now, the problem with that solution is if there's a job opening today, you can't do that because that whole thing that I just told you takes six months, maybe even a year to do. And so I tell all of my interns, I said, you're still in high school. One thing that you can do for yourself is ensure that you know how to network. Because if you don't know how to network, you're not going to get jobs. This is not an AI thing. This is not a discrimination thing. This is not a bias thing. This is just simple, basic human nature. If you go somewhere and you see somebody that looks like you, doesn't matter what the environment is, you are more likely to gravitate towards that person if there's less of you than some other group of people. So that's just natural. When I am hiring for somebody, when anybody's hiring for somebody, what are the first thing they do is they're like, which one of my friends, which one of my past colleagues can come work with me? Why do you do that? Because trusted value, known entity. No, that's not a bias. And if it is a bias, it's not a negative bias. It's good business sense. I know you. I know what you can do. I know what you can't do. I know how you work. You're familiar with me. Why wouldn't I hire you? So, I get requests for people to join my network all the time, and most of the times I don't say I do this consistently, but most of the time I try to send back a thing that says, thanks for reaching out. Here's my calendar. If you want to, get a half an hour to chat. So I could at least say I've spoken to this person once. Less than 2% of the people actually take me up on that. So then if somebody then comes back, right, and says, hey, Stephanie, I see that you know XYZ person. Can you do an intro? And I look at it and I see that I had offered to talk to them and they never took me up on the offer. They never took me up on the offer. I just would not indulge, because you're not really seeing me as a human being. You're seeing me as a commodity to get to your next step. And yeah.
Well, I think that is, and this is has stood test test of the time. I mean, even if we go back to decades and years when there was no LinkedIn and no AI as well, networking not from the point or not from the intention of just kind of getting into the good books, but genuinely connecting and authentically connecting on ideas, or even if it's just that how both the persons can contribute for each other. And I think that's where the mentor and mentee relationship comes into the picture. And this is not considering, or this is not only relevant in today's age, but it has been there since ages. So that is actually the human thing that I think is very, very important. And I mean, I have had several conversations and I've seen different stories shared by people where they would say that this particular person from sales, or this particular person who has never even talked with me or interacted with me, chatted with me, just simply came and asked for this and this reference or referral. So I think that's a very, very crucial aspect that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And also, Stephanie, you turned a chance conversation with a government official into a live partnership, life partnership. For founders who are listening, what are the first three moves to convert serendipity into policy level impact?
Yeah, I mean, so you have to know your product really, really well. You have to understand what it is you're selling, what you're trying to do, so that when you run into somebody, you're ready. Because we're always running into opportunities. The problem is we're not ready for the opportunities, so we miss them. Um, so if you know your product really well, you have a technique for illicit information from customers, so you could then say, "Oh, this is how we can help you." Um, and I will say that I'm saying it and makes it sound simple. It's very, very difficult. I mean, it took us years. Uh, it will take us years to figure out how to position our product in a way that we can do that. So lots of market research, lots of development, lots of understanding what your product is, for you to be able to seize opportunities. So serendipity happens when you're ready. And I see that now that we are ready, now that we have a good handle, now those things are happening very, very, very easily, that they're almost no longer serendipity. It's just, that's just what happens when you're ready for the world.
Hmm. Hmm. Got it. Got it. And what's the most common deal killer you see, and how would you like to change it? Like, anything that turns off the deal or the conversation, and doesn't necessarily contribute to a long term or long lasting relationship or a partnership.
Um, if somebody is change resistant,
Okay.
meaning they just want to take AI and use it like as a tool, as part of what they're doing, then that's something that we are not really excited about, because AI is about really and truly leveling up people. And if you're not into really rethinking how you're using AI, then it's not going to be a good a good investment for us. Um, the second piece of it is, if somebody says to me, "Hey, I just want you to build out these agents so that we don't have to have any you know, I can reduce my workforce." We are like, well, all of our solutions are human in the loop, so it's not going to work.
Oh, that's very bold, and it really, really reframes this um, very weird, but kind of. I think it has become kind of a fear mongering, that if a company or an organization is contemplating about implementing AI, definitely it will inevitably has to cut its workforce. And I think that's kind of a huge uh, huge reason for having that fear, specifically around tech or AI. But once again, then on the other hand, I have actually come across many of the founders or entrepreneurs saying that AI can actually never, never replace humans or jobs. But yes, it can complement and create new jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful.
Exactly. Yeah.
And before we wrap up, Stephanie, if our listeners, they would like to connect with you and also get a hold of that how you are, working this particular sector, and they would also like to share their ideas and thoughts with you after this conversation. What will be the easiest way to reach out to you?
Um, you can go to. I think the easiest way is to connect on LinkedIn and say that they heard my conversation on your podcast.
Hmm. Super, super. So, listeners, what I'll do for you is just refer to the show notes. I'll have Stephanie's LinkedIn profile in there and just connect with her. Mention that you heard her on BizBlend podcast, and feel free to share your thoughts. And also, if I can summarize this conversation, I think we this was definitely not a hype reel, it is a recalibration. And Stephanie really reminded us that leadership isn't about outcoding each other, it is about outcaring, outthinking, and building systems that remember people, remember humans. So if you are leading a team, you're launching a product, or you are just trying to stay human in a machine cage, carry this with you. Craft before scale, outcomes over optics, and context as a feature, not just a footnote. So, Stephanie, thank you so much. This was really, really much needed, super critical conversation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of BizBlend. Until then, this is your host, Sana, signing off. I'll catch you next time.